Welcome to my list, where I will be ranking all 15 of M. Night Shyamalan's directed feature films. At number 15 is The Last Airbender. A lot of people that love the show seem to really hate this movie, but I don't particularly care for either. I wrote a really quick song that explains why I don't like it. I think it's boring. At number 14, Praying with Anger. While not as affecting as his later work, I think that this movie really illustrates that from the beginning, M. Night had raw talent and a massive amount of ambition. At number 13, Wide Awake. I thought this movie was a major step up from Praying with Anger on both a technical level and a creative level. It is an intelligent, emotional, and sometimes funny movie about a boy that searches for God after losing his grandfather. And I think that the movie manages to capture a lot of humanity in its short runtime. While we do only see brief glimpses of the grandfather, I think that M. Night gives us enough to realize that his connection with his grandson is pretty deep and very special. And it's not just the grandfather. I think that M. Night actually does a spectacular job at building the relationship up between Josh and his friends at school, as well as his fellow peers, as well as his parents. It feels like a very personal movie that critically examines the role of faith and belief and the way that they can shape and change us as human beings as we grow up. At number 12, and I know a lot of people hate this one, The Happening. The way that people talk about this movie is the same way that people talk about Malignant. When I watch these movies, I get the sense that both of them are 100% self-aware and know full well what they're doing. But some people seem to take these movies very seriously, including the hammy acting.
Plan on murdering me in my sleep?
What? No!
If you can go into The Happening and watch it and accept it on its own terms, rather than trying to put it up against the preconceived notions that you have of what a movie should be, then I think that you will enjoy it a lot more. I think it's a lot more intentional than people realize, and while it's no masterpiece, I think that there's a genuine message to it, and I think it actually executes that fairly well. At number 11, it's M. Night's new movie, Knock at the Cabin. Knock at the Cabin is a tightly written, tightly shot, tightly edited movie that feels like Shyamalan's most compact movie to date. In some recent interviews, Shyamalan makes reference to the fact that this is his shortest script yet, and watching it, I'm not surprised at all. It is a great looking film with fantastic performances from each of the cast members, and Shyamalan just directs the shit out of it. The reason why I'm putting it a bit lower is because I find that it doesn't have as much substance as some other M. Night films do. At number 10, Split. While I do enjoy the story in this movie, it is far from my favorite M. Night story. I think what really carries this movie for me is the performances by both James McAvoy and Anya Taylor-Joy, especially Anya Taylor-Joy. This is the first movie that I ever saw her in, and I found her performance completely magnetic. You know, it would actually be really cool if she got her own spin-off superhero movie directed by M. Night. At number 9, The Village. Whenever I think of this movie, I can't help but think of Scary Movie 4. I'd never actually seen this movie until after I watched Old, so my entire idea of it was based on Scary Movie 4.
Vagina!
When I finally did manage to see it, I thought it was a beautifully shot movie by Roger Deakins himself, with some great performances by Bryce Dallas Howard and Joaquin Phoenix. It was also the third movie that Jesse Eisenberg was in, and that's my name.
JC,
At number 8, we have Signs. Whenever I think of this movie, I can't help but think of Scary Movie 3. 2 Shyamalan movies in a row are parodied by 2 scary movies in a row.
Very, very disturbing.
In a way, I think that speaks to the identifiability and the uniqueness of Shyamalan's movies. It's probably one of my favorite performances by Joaquin Phoenix, although he kind of shines in any role that he's put into. I think it's one of the coolest endings that Shyamalan has ever written, and I also think that the way he shoots interiors is simply fantastic. At number 7, a movie that I didn't even really like the first time I watched it, but subsequent viewings have really improved it, Glass. This movie takes the superhero myth and throws it into an intellectual and emotional blender, then takes that concoction and throws it in the oven for an hour, and the result is a superhero cake that doesn't taste like any other superhero cake. And its meditation on trauma and pain and loneliness is much deeper and more tangible than in most movies that deal with those same subject matters. It is a story about what it means to be human and what it means to have belief, and especially what it means to have belief belief in yourself as a human. Ultimately, I think this movie is actually a love story, and it's a love story about how you should love yourself. At number 6, Unbreakable. Back when superhero films weren't much more than Batman and Superman, M. Night created this, a retelling of the Superman mythology. What if Superman existed on Earth but didn't know he was Superman? It speaks to the nature of people and our responsibilities as human beings. Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson put on fantastic performances, but I think that what really defines their performances is when they are in a scene together, their synergy is unbelievable. I think it is one of M. Night's most beautifully shot films. The use of color and camera movements and music is spectacular, especially in this scene. This is a strong contender for the best scene in M. Night's entire filmography. At number 5, we have a movie that a lot of people say is M. Night's only good movie, which I think is bullshit. It is The Sixth Sense. According to a lot of critics and a lot of the general movie-going audience, this was M. Night's first and only good movie. In some ways, I kind of understand that because M. Night never really tried to make a movie quite like this one again. It is one of his most tense and terrifying and thrilling movies to date, but also one of his most restrained. And by restrained, I mean that he wasn't quite as ambitious with this one as some of his later work. I think Shyamalan loses a lot of people when he gets more ambitious because people don't quite think that he lives up to those ambitions, but there's not a lot of room for that here. It is a very concentrated and very focused film that doesn't really try to do too much. Bruce Willis and Haley Joel Osment put on great performances. I think M. Night has an eye for child actors because he always seems to have really good luck with picking some of the best out there. This movie also has one of the most recognizable and most quoted movie endings of all time.
I see dead people.
At number 4, the movie that really got me into M. Night, Old. Before seeing Old, I had only seen 5 M. Night movies in total, but after seeing it, my partner and I binged his entire filmography. Old is one of the most memorable theater-going experiences I've had in years. It is a movie that just pulls you in and never lets go. It has some of the best and most inventive camera work that I've seen in recent memory. M. Night expertly crafts each and every scene to have massive impact. I think this movie also made me realize how empathetic M. Night is as a human being. His emotional intelligence and understanding of people guides his audiovisual style, resulting in maximum emotion for each moment. Old is a brilliant and gripping reflection on aging. At number 3, The Visit. By many, this was called a return to form for Shyamalan. And I think that's because this is the movie most similar to The Sixth Sense. This movie delivers a brutal examination of aging and our concepts of aging and the assumptions that we make about both aging and the aged population. It delivers a sledgehammer to our discriminatory misconceptions and our poor treatment of the aged population. As I said earlier, I think that M. Night is one of the most empathetic directors working today. He is constantly weaving in his understanding of people and their emotions into his work, and he always does it with a pure respect and an understanding and open-heartedness and open-mindedness that is completely refreshing. I think what's amazing about The Visit is that subsequent viewings actually get better and better. When you know how all the pieces fit together and you're watching it again, every action and every word takes on so much more meaning. At number 2, Lady in the Water. Shyamalan seems to have had a problem with the way that some critics and audience members were approaching his movies. In many ways, Lady in the Water is a direct response to that. But that's not all it is. It isn't a purely reactionary film. I think it spends a lot of time positing its own ideas and enveloping us in its fantastical world. It is a lesson on how to experience stories and how to believe in the power of storytelling. If we can accept stories for what they are, that can give us hope and it can help connect us to other people and ourselves. Especially stories as genuine and thoughtful, in my opinion, as M. Night's. At number 1, this is going to be a controversial pick. It is After Earth. I remember seeing this movie when it first came out in theaters, and while I enjoyed it, it didn't really stand out to me at the time. But after reading Nostalgia's 5-star review on Rate Your Music and rewatching the movie years later, I fell in love with it. I've since rewatched the movie a few times, and every time it seems to get better and better. It is a deeply symbolic film about humankind and its place in the universe. From Nostalgia's review, at a glance formally antithetical to the heaving, stinking, fractured, at once frightening but always laugh out loud funny Moby Dick, its name passes in words and its images haunt this film. In After Earth, there is this strange trip from the belly of a whale through its broken skeleton to shipwrecks, to shipwrecked skeletons, to shipwrecked skeleton angel wings. One of the decade's best. And I fully agree with that. I think it's one of the best sci-fi movies of the 2010s, if not the best.
I love M. Night. He's so cool. I love his movies. He's so cool. He's so cool. He's so cool.